Welcome to Education in Focus. I'm Eliana Kernodle. The U.S. Department of Education is threatening action against California if they do not change their policies surrounding biological males participating in female sports. Joining me to dig into this is Center Square's Esther Wickham. Esther, the U.S. Department of Education announced California was in violation of Title IX last week. Can you lay out what they said?
Yeah, thanks, Eliana, for having me. So last week, the California Department of Education, as well as the California Interscholastic Federation, was found in violation of Title IX by the U.S. Department of Education. So many education groups, but they were found in violation of essentially allowing men in women's sports and intimate spaces. This comes after a couple of months of an investigation opened by the U.S. Department of Education, seeing whether or not they were found in violation. And just last week, they officially announced in a press release statement that they are, and they want these two organizations to take immediate action. They gave them a 10-day deadline, but since it's already been 7 days, they have until this Thursday to actually do anything about it, to change their policies and to, quote unquote, protect women in these spaces. And so this has been, a long debate whether transgender athletes should be in women's sports, and, digging a little bit deeper into what these, organizations have stated. California hasn't really done anything since then, but this is kind of like the latest of what's been happening.
So how have different people responded since this announcement in California?
Yeah, so after the statement was released, the governor's office actually came out with a statement essentially making fun of the secretary of the U.S. Department of Education and saying, it wouldn't be a day without without the, Trump administration threatening to defund California. And, this won't stick. This won't, change anything. From their response, it basically said, these kinds of legal documents are not serious. They said, quote, "It's a political document designed to intimidate school officials and unlawfully override well-established state laws protecting students." And so, their response, they essentially were saying, we're unfazed. This is not going to stick. This is not going to change anything. So that's kind of what, the governor's office had to say in regards to this violation. But when reaching out to the CDE and the CIF, the CIF's official response was saying, we don't comment on legal matters at all. And so it doesn't seem like they are really going to do anything about it. They don't have any, action plans. And the CDE essentially, made a statement for like public use saying that they support everybody, and they want all students to have equal opportunity to learn in school. Again, not a lot of detail of what they are actually going to do with this violation and what their plans are. But on top of that, these LGBTQ, pro-trans athlete organizations are calling out the CDE and the CIF to take action, to reject the demands of the U.S. Department of Education. In one of their quotes, finding that these are dangerous distortions of Title IX and, quote, a direct attack on transgender youth in California. And so, they're saying, don't not do anything, take action, take a stand for these pro-transgender athletes. So that's kind of what that side is saying in regards to that. But looking over to organizations and groups that are pro-female athletes, that are in pro team for this, violation to go through and for these organizations to be upheld. The California Family Council, which is obviously pro-female athlete, one of their girls sports advocates who was actually a former CIF athlete, Sophia Laurie. In one of her interviews, she was previously a soccer student at Vanguard University in Costa Mesa. And, she is in support of this recognition of that there is a violation of Title IX in these spaces. And she's saying, quote, I am deeply grateful to the U.S. Department of Education taking action. I, as her, personally heard from too many young women who have faced the injustice of being forced to compete against male athletes, losing out on championships, awards, and their safeties. This is a critical decision, she goes on to say, toward restoring fairness and protecting the integrity of girls' sports in our state. So, as you can see, that's a totally different shift than what these other organizations saying, don't change the policies, keep it as is. This is a person that directly was impacted and affected by having these transgender athletes in these sports and in these intimate spaces. And so we see a huge, debate going back and forth on whether this violation will stand or if it will not.
Yeah, it sounds like largely a lot of the same positions in this ongoing debate are being held as this comes out, and now it's just a matter of seeing, well, what does the U.S. Department of Education do? Where does it go from here?
Yeah.
Well, thank you for your insights on this story. I'm sure we'll continue to follow it if there are any developments after this deadline that they gave to the state of California. And viewers can read about those at thecentersquare.com.